Hi everyone, this is Paris Debono of the Fortune Teller Shop, and I'm having a conversation with Amanda about fortune telling and tarot. And the first question was, how did you discover tarot? And Amanda tells me that her neighborhood friend introduced her to it.
It was kind of funny because I don't even remember what the it was probably a question about my love life. I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
And he read my cards, and I was really, really, really fascinated by them. And so I was like, and he said, you know what, if you want to borrow them, you can borrow them.
Yeah.
And I said, really, really, like, you trust me with your cards? That's really cool, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, we lived literally right next door to one another. And so I borrowed his cards for, I don't know, I want to say probably like a week or two. And it just had that little book that comes with them.
Yeah.
And I was trying really hard to learn and memorize. And then I just decided that like I had to have my own deck. And so I just went out and bought the same deck that I've had for, my since beginning.
Wow.
They're my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I have my first deck here as well. I started off with the Morgan Greer.
Yeah.
Morgan Greer was my first deck. This is my first deck, and it's still with me. So
that's awesome.
You know.
Yeah, and so I had the book with it. I studied it. I didn't have anything. I didn't have anybody to talk to. Maybe I talked to my neighbor once or twice, and then I just started trying to do readings after I started taking, I was journaling, trying to do like 3 cards a day or 2 cards a day until I was able to get a grip on like the more quotidian parts of tarot rather than like the big lessons of learning, about life or love or betrayal or, a reckoning. Yeah, these kinds of things that are the more, major arcana aspects of the tarot that I just slowly discovered on my own. I didn't even know where to buy a tarot book. This was before the internet. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like,
of course,
like you got to like go and like seek it out. And so
I think when I started, I was fascinated with the imagery of the cards from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being around maybe 7 years old, and my parents had an Encyclopedia Britannica. Do you remember those?
Mm-hmm. Oh, right? Yes. Oh, yes. We had to go to the library for those.
Library.
That was pretty cool. Actually, we did have one. We had one from the 50s, though.
Yeah.
I bet you tarot cards were not in that encyclopedia.
Yeah. But in this one was probably from the late 70s, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a picture in the encyclopedia of tarot cards. And the picture was, I remember it was a color plate too. It was color of the tarot, and they were little French cards. I don't think they were kind of like the Marseille.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't exactly that. They were some other fangled version. But I remember they were blue, red, and white, and maybe a bit of yellow. And it was just they were so graphic. They were so beautiful. And I remember being like 7 years old and looking at that plate in the Encyclopedia Britannica and just being fascinated. Wonder what that means, and wonder why he's holding a sword and the other one's holding a cup. Wonder what that means, Mm-hmm. And so there was already that sort of interest in the imagery and the graphic of it. And then I studied art, right?
Mm-hmm.
So most people with artistic brains are fascinated with the symbols and the artistic side of it. That was my memory of that's Dali, right? Salvador Dali, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was my memory of my first encounter with tarot. And then I remember as well, when I was a bit older, watching the movie Live and Let Die, the James Bond movie.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
With Solitaire. That she was the card reader in that movie, right?
I need to see it. I haven't seen it.
Oh, you've got to see it.
I've watch it this weekend.
And I tell you what, the way she reads the cards was very authentic. You know, like in movies, they always.
Oh yeah. Oh
they always
God. Yes,
fudge
the
it up.
Tower,
Yeah,
Death.
the Tower and the Death. But in the movie Live and Let Die, the way she read the cards was actually accurate. Like the way she reads it is really beautiful. And I remember watching that. I would have maybe been about 10, 11. I don't know when that movie came out, but it was on television. So, you know, it was probably at the movies, and then a year later was played on TV. So it would have been probably early 80s, I would think. And I remember thinking I wanted to be like her.
Yeah.
Like I remember watching the movie and I was just
You're
thinking,
like, those are my people. That is my
it.
like.
I remember thinking that's what I want to be. But of course you just think it's impossible, you know? And
yeah.
you know, and years later it's what I became. It was really fascinating. It was like something inside me clicked when I saw that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I didn't know what that was because I was brought up Catholic. So these things were, you know, taboo.
Forbidden,
yeah. The devil's work. So I didn't.
So your parents were not very encouraging.
Oh no,
at all.
No. They were just afraid of it, you know. They're just afraid of this stuff because that's what they've been taught, you know. But yeah, that's how it all. That was my first memory of.
The first time I got a professional reading was in Seattle, and it was my 19th birthday.
Wow.
And by then I had been reading, well, for myself, right, and for my friends, you know, about probably frivolous things mostly, but you know, I went to this woman who was actually in like a little, like tiny little market in the neighborhood of Seattle. It's right on Broadway, on it's like what 10th Street would be, but it's called Broadway. And it's like, it was just like bars and shops. And it was the height. It was like, you know, the gay 90s, let me tell you. And I went into this little place, and it was, I wanted to treat myself for my birthday. And so I got a reading. And, you know, of course, again, it was a love reading. And at that time I had, you know, a terrible, terrible, terrible crush on someone. And it was really leading to nowhere. And she told me this, and I was, of course, heartbroken. And, you know, I was like, maybe it's not true. Maybe it's not true, you know.
Yeah.
but it's terrible.
I can relate.
I can relate. It doesn't lie. And sure enough, poor little teenage me was heartbroken soon thereafter, of course. Absolutely. But you know, that was sort of my introduction to tarot, and like just discovering that it doesn't just have to be about love readings, but of course those are fun.
Yeah, they're the beginning. I think most people sort of enter through the love reading, because we're all, you know, especially when we're younger, we're all, you know, trying to find the one and all this type of thing, and it's magical and mystical and destiny. A lot of the time young people think, you know, they're gonna find only one and that's it, you know.
Right. Will I ever be in love?
Yeah, you know, that's right. So I think most people enter tarot through love. You know, and then later on, I, you know, bought a pack, sort of like your story. I bought a pack, wanted to find out about my love life, couldn't figure it out. Bought a book, couldn't figure it out, and then I finally, eventually met a teacher, a woman who taught tarot, and I joined her class, and that's how it all began. So.
Yeah, I would have loved to have had a mentor of sorts.
Yeah.
You know,
I was lucky.
Young,
I had a mentor, and she had a really good library at her house. She had, you know, she'd been collecting tarot books for years, and so when I would go over to her house, she just had the whole library of all these different tarot books and tarot art and things. So I would just plunder her library, you know. And that was before the internet. That would have been like 1991 or something like that, you know. And so she was a great resource for me. And and then she mentored me, and then she asked me to work with her at she used to work at a market, and that's how it all began, so
Mm-hmm.
it was meant to be, and I've been passionate about this work ever
So
since.
exciting.
Yeah.
Well, it's been hard for me. No, I've always been serious about tarot.
Yeah.
But, whether or not it was a priority in my life, it's waxed and waned for me personally, because I didn't want to make it my profession. Just because pragmatic parental units, college aspirations, I went to grad school. I chose graduate school, know.
Yeah.
And, but tarot has always been near and dear to my heart. And, just in the last couple of years, I've really reconnected with it. And it's.
And so how did
you don't lose it. You don't lose it.
Yeah.
No.
I think sometimes people get a bit rusty. Like when I don't do readings for a month, maybe I'm on a holiday or something, I do get rusty. It's like when I get back into it, I'm like, oh my God. Until I get back.
Wait, you gotta just you gotta jiggle your brain a little bit.
Gotta maneuver the brain, and then I get into it, and then I get into it again,
Mm-hmm.
But even like sometimes I wonder, people that do this occasionally, it must be very difficult, because I find it difficult when I have a break for at least like even if I have a month break of not touching the cards, I do feel a bit of a
I didn't touch them for years.
Yeah.
I didn't touch them for years.
Yeah. So how did you find tarot? Is that how you found me, or?
Yes. So it's really cool that you can find that in pockets, especially on Facebook. So it was actually one of my friends who I met when I was in graduate school in Indiana. She was on her Facebook page talking about how she was offering tarot services, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know she read, tarot with Lena, and I was like, oh, very cool, and I was like, okay, I read too, like if you want to, like exchange readings or something like that, so anyway, so she was like, oh, Amanda, you should join these groups. And then she mentions your group, and she was like, you have to like say tarot or something. And the word is tarot. And I was like, okay. It was like, I was like there. And then suddenly I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is kind of interesting. Like a lot of people in here, I would imagine, asking questions that they would pay for regularly as well,
Mm-hmm.
So it's good practice.
Because our brains are visual, and I find that when I have students that are artistic as well, they can just create in the,
it's storytelling.
Find the cards. Yeah. Free flowing.
It's storytelling.
Yeah. Storytelling. Exactly. And then when I have people that are more technical, maybe more, logical, they can read it too, but they're a little bit more, clunky in some way,
They don't have the best bedside manner.
Yeah, that's right. And they also get caught up in the technical side of things, especially Lenono. Lenono they find very hard to read, because Lenono is very flowing and very
right.
So often when they're too analytical, they can't kind of combine,
reconcile.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I still have trouble with Lenormand. That's the system that I'm just like, well, I haven't even worked my way up to doing, like a grand tableau. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, like, that's why I love.
Lenormand took me a good year to get comfortable with Lenormand, because I kept trying to read it like tarot.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept trying to read it like astrology as well. You know, the fish,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that must be like Pisces, and the sun is like,
Right.
you know, the sun in astrology, the moon.
Leo.
So I kept trying to do that at first, and then I realized, no, Lenormand is its own system and its own way of reading it. And once I let go of all of the other stuff that I knew, and I just read it as a new system, that's when it fell into place for me, you know.
Mm. I think
But
there's just a few more things that need to click for me to be able to do it effectively. You know what I mean?
yeah, it takes
To
a bit
read
of
with
time.
ease,
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. But you read Lenono. You read Lenono very well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So Lenono's an offshoot.
Oh, that came to me so easily, though.
Wow.
It really came to me so easily. That is really easy for me. I don't know why. It's just very simple.
See, I created Lenono out of Lenormand. When I studied Lenormand, I kept thinking there's another system in here, and I kept not feeling quite comfortable with Lenormand because I feel like Lenormand is not a balanced deck. Like it has a snake, which is the woman, but what's the male counterpart? It could be the rider, but the rider is more of a young man. So there are some things that don't quite correlate, and I kept thinking I can better this system.
Right.
Then when I was working with it, I created Lenono, which was 20 cards. And then I started to play around with the spread and the grand tableau. I really liked the grand tableau in the Lenormand, but I felt it was too big.
It's too much. Too many lines.
Yeah.
Too many lines. It's so much easier with Lenono because it's either it's there or it's not, or it's knighting, or it's like then you can use it kind of more of like a portrait, what's going on above, you know, for what's on their mind or what is out of their control or within their control, you know, how things are connected. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that for me simplifies the best parts of what I like about Lenormand. I love that Lenormand can be so direct, and I love Lenono because it's all about, you can make it about relationships.
Yeah.
You can, and it's
well, I don't know if
super
I told you before, but when I first created Lenono is Lenormand and Debono. My second name's Debono, so I put it together, Lenono. So that's why it's called Lenono. But when I first created that and I put that on Facebook, I got so much hate for that. Because a lot of I was kicked out of groups. I was kicked out of Lenormand groups and everything. Oh, yeah. That's why I created my own.
Fucking people.
Because way back when I first released it, people were saying, this is not Lenormand. There's no lion in Lenormand. And I was like, no, it's not Lenormand. It's something else. But they kept thinking that I was trying to change Lenormand.
And it's a different system. It's
and there
totally
was a lot
different.
There was a lot of like people that were very traditional Lenormand readers that were just hating me, and then I ended up getting kicked out of. There was 3 Lenormand groups back then. I got kicked out of all of them. I was banned from all of them.
Paris, I think that is hilarious. Oh my God.
I had like people hating. I remember my friend who was in the Lenormand group, she said, look what they're writing about you. There was reams and reams of hate in these groups because of me. They had like pictures of Lenono and they were like, this is against the rules and it's against the law and we're going to kill him. And I remember,
going to hell. You're going to be cursed. You're going to be cursed.
Yeah. And a lot of the readers that were traditional readers blocked me, like, so I couldn't communicate with them, not even in private message. And then I thought, well, I'm on my own. I've been kicked out. I might as well start my own group. So what happened was I started Lenormand, which was originally it was called Lenormand and Cartomancy. So the idea was I was going to combine Lenormand and a bit of Cartomancy and a bit of this and a bit of that. And but then eventually the people that weren't enjoying the other group started to join my group. So then it was kind of like they were ahead of me by a couple of thousand followers, but then I sort of creeped up. And now I'm the biggest Lenormand group on Facebook as far as I know. So it took a few years, but I sort of overcame
I think
the
it's so funny they
banishment.
kicked you out. God.
They kicked me out, and it wasn't like, please leave. It was like, you're out and we hate you. We want to kill you.
Oh
It
my
was-
God.
I actually used
That's
to call
some
them the Lenormand
petty.
Mafia. I called them the Lenormand
Yeah.
Mafia.
Oh my God.
So I had to suffer. I had to suffer for my, for my love. for
You're
my-
s- Yes. Oh man, you kid you.
But like I was saying before, even tarot, like I sort of created that. I don't even know why I created tarot actually. I just created it. Back then it was just like creative. It was easy to create a group and people started joining it and I ignored it and then it grew and grew and grew and grew. And then it just became this massive monster that it is today.
Ah!
It's like planet Jupiter just sucking people in with its gravity,
Okay, so we're going to leave the conversation here. I want to say thanks to Amanda. That was so much fun chatting about tarot and fortune telling in general. Please like and subscribe, and we're going to do lots more. And also, you can let us know if there's any topics you want us to cover in future videos. This is Debono of the Fortune Teller Shop.